Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, podcast primarily about women's football. I'm your host, Dino and Decespedes, and as always, I'm joined by my co-host, Mr. Grant Engle. What is up, man?
I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. Match week 18 is upon us, and I'm just ready to talk about some more football with you.
I'm ready, man. I think week 17 probably represented like the league swing back into, or maybe shaking off some of that rust. I feel like we got some good football, not great peak football, but I think we're just about back. Match week 18. I hope we'll have a lot in store, some good matchups, and shout out to us. We did a thing. It's tough kind of knocking through these 7 matchups. You know, we don't necessarily want to go chronologically every time. So shout out to you. You set up some tiers for us. And then I think we were able to group this week's 7 matchups into 3 tiers.
Excellent. Love a good tiering system. A watch guide, if you will. The Into the Channel, what should you watch, and what should you maybe put on the second screen while other things are happening? Who knows? But we're not here to tell you how to live your life. We're just here to throw out informed suggestions.
I like it. Tier number 1. We're calling this the absolute must-watch tier. This is basically clear the schedule. And for this week, I don't know. I'm not sure if you agree. I'm curious about your take on this, but the matchup that I'm dying to see for a few different reasons. Give me the Orlando Pride hosting Gotham FC. Obviously, you get Orlando. You get the post-Banda Orlando situation. You get potentially Lisbeth Ovalle situation, maybe joining the team. You get Orlando on an icy cold streak. Have not won a match since June 13th. I mean, that's not
tough.
if you bet that one, props to you. I don't think anybody had that. And then on the other side, you get Gotham, who needs something. I think they're very dangerously close to being on the outside looking in. They're tied for 8th right now with the North Carolina Courage. Pretty healthy advantage goal differential wise, but they really are hanging on to that final playoff spot. And this is a team that had to have, I think, more lofty aspirations than that coming into the year.
Yeah, no doubt. I mean, I think it's been a frustrating season for Gotham. You have Astaire, playing lights out, getting a lot of goals early, especially before the international break. And like you said, they're just kind of barely staying afloat. So they're going to have to go to Orlando, probably play in some more extreme heat. I don't know what the exact forecast is down in Orlando. I'm going to take a wild shot in the dark and guess very hot would be my assumption. And yeah, we'll see if Lisbeth Ovalle plays, makes her debut in front of the home crowd. Nicknamed La Maga for the Magician. And I got to say, people down in Florida probably very psyched when they read that her nickname is La Maga, M-A-G-A. But then I think they'll be very disappointed after they realize that it's a women's football team. But I digress. I had to get the La Maga joke in there. I'm very excited to see Ovalle play, and I hope she does.
I love it. I'm fully behind that rebrand. And actually, you bring up. I'm glad you brought this up. Refreshed in my mind. Did you ever see the Ali documentary When We Were Kings, or the Ali movie starring Will Smith?
Ooh, I think I've seen most of the Ali movie with Will Smith. I haven't seen the documentary though. I should watch it.
Must watch documentary.
Okay.
It recounts the Rumble in the Jungle, Muhammad Ali, George Foreman, from Kinshasa and Zaire. Just a very super cool. I mean, it's my favorite sports documentary for sure. But in that documentary, there's a famous segment that was recreated in the Will Smith movie where the crowd starts screaming Ali Boumaye, which translates to Ali kill him. And I'm going to put the call out right now to everybody we know Orlando. John, Luis, Ad Astra, Haley Carter, Seb Hines. I need Lisbeth Ovalle to the tune of Ali Boumaye as often as possible.
Oh, I love
can
that.
Can we make this happen? Like, I just want this to be a thing. There's an Orlando Pride size hole in my heart. I miss that glove. I miss covering that glove every time I see something's happening that I want to ask Kylie Nadanner about or Seb Hines about. It's a real bummer. But this would be, me having a little foot still in Orlando with what's going on. So our friends in Orlando, please help us make that happen.
I love it. I know Ad Astra is like plugged into the supporters club down there, as far as I know. Go. So I think we could make it happen.
Love it. Let's do it. Some Ovalle, some Ovalle highlights. Some Ovalle highlights.
There you go.
How about
that's the rhythm.
81? I could talk myself into a corner. 81 appearances for the Mexican national team, 20 goals, 8 years for Tigres. The club's all-time leading scorer for Ovalle. I love this part. 136 goals, 103 assists, 239 goal contributions, and 294 appearances. So a team that needs goals, needs assists, needs creativity. A player like Ovalle, much, much, much needed. But I think Orlando's going to need more than that. I think, in our last episode, we talked about Chulufia kind of on the ascent, but maybe needing to now take another 2 or 3 steps up, if this year is going to be salvageable. But another player I wanted to call out, Carriabello. We just have not seen Carriabello affect matches the same way she did last season. So obviously last year, 29 appearances, 28 starts. This year, I think she's at like 10 starts from 17 matches. And then you look at her shot creating actions per 90, and they've dropped the last 3 seasons, 2.79 per 90, down to 2.14 last year, down to 1.66 this year. So in a year where you need more stuff, you just need stuff. I feel like Abello is a player that if you can get her reinvigorated, reintroduced into this offense, like just creating more, I think that could maybe also be an unlock along with a couple of players that we have already mentioned.
Yeah, for sure. They need something. They need a boost from one or a couple different areas on the pitch. Well, I love the Abello call out. Because when she is really going, the attack looks completely different. She changes the geometry of the field. So from your lips to God's ears, my good man.
Yeah. Speaking of the big guy upstairs and Carriabello downstairs, let's crack a beer to some of the all-star players that we're talking about and highlighting in this episode.
There you go.
Things are getting dry and thirsty around here, and it's just a lot to celebrate.
It's match week 18, man. The football doesn't last forever each season, unfortunately. Maybe fortunately for the athletes' rest and for their well-being. But what we got this, and I guess that means 9 matches remaining in the regular season. So some moving and shaking to be done on the table, except maybe the number 1 spot. I think that one's pretty sewn up. But yeah, I'll be very interested to see how this one plays out. Because if it's a straight up loss for Gotham, we're talking real scary hours, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yep, getting very dangerous. And yeah, good math by you. I had some math from my end as well. I want to talk a little Esther. Obviously, leading the Golden Boot race, 11 goals this season. I want to zoom in a little bit because what Esther's are able to do, and this is going to lead me to another discussion as well, but Esther in the box, she just turns every chance into a shot. So I actually went and looked at the numbers. I'm like, how drastic is this? So this season, you've got Esther and Chewinga both on 11 goals. Banda, obviously, she's got the injury. She's got 8 goals. I'm going to compare numbers for these 3 players. For Banda to get a goal, she's averaging 17.1 box touches this season. So every 17 touches, Banda gets a goal. You look at Temwa Chewinga, 9.8 box touches to get a goal. You look at Esther Gonzalez, 7.5 box touches. She's getting a goal every 7.5 box touches. That is out of this world. That's out of this world that you can get her the ball 8 times in the box in a match and you're getting a goal. You're walking away with a goal. Not just like, it could be an assist, could be other stuff, that's just off the charts. I mean, she's just super lethal. And it leads me to a point that I think is a real issue for what I'm going to call the American striker. And it's been kind of ruminating in my head for a while, but in the Angel City versus Orlando Pride match last week, the match opens with Riley Tiernan kind of like breaking away, getting a look, and then like essentially rolling a shot to Anna Morehouse. And the announcer's like, oh, yeah, I love that. Make Anna Morehouse feel you're there, put a shot on frame. And I'm like, I can guarantee you nothing worries Anna Morehouse less than a ball rolling at her at 2 miles an hour, like 3 minutes into the match. I can guarantee you that had zero effect on the match whatsoever. And I keep seeing this with like American strikers. It's like, put it on frame, just put it, roll it. They had this too with Adriana Leon against Bloomer, where Adriana Leon smokes a shot, 120 miles an hour. It looked like it was going. It goes high, and then she's like, "Well, you got to put that one on frame." I'm like, "How about Jordan Bloomer saving everything?" That might be the only window that you have, and it's a weird thing with. It feels like the American strikers have this tendency to like have this feel like it's additive when really it's not. In a game like Angel City Orlando, that might have been the only shot. I mean, Angel City's got to wait another 70 plus minutes to actually get their goal at the end of the match. So I don't think in this league you can really give away those chances. I'm very curious to hear it. Am I a weirdo? am I a little bit of a psycho, or does this kind of rub you the wrong way as well?
If if you can't get around on one, or if a defender is on top of you and you can't get power on it, or if you're kind of falling in the other direction and you think you can get a good hit on it and you can't, I think that's all understandable. But I'm 100% with you. That soft ass shot from right around the top of the 18, I don't think it does anything. It doesn't put any pressure on the goalkeeper. All it does is give them some time to pick it up and look around and figure out how they're going to redistribute. And when you think about a player like Astaire and why it's 7.5 box touches to get a goal, it's because what doesn't she do right? She has a genius first touch. She has great hold-up play. For a diminutive player, she's really strong, like especially compared to a lot of the defenders out there. And again, for someone her size, she can win the ball in the air. These are the kind of things that you need to be, the top tier as a striker.
Yeah, no doubt. And I think Orlando will definitely have their hands full with Astaire. But Gotham's they've definitely sputtered offensively, so it could be an opportunity for each of these teams to get right against each other. We'll see who comes out on top. That was I don't know. Did you have another absolute must watch? I apologize. I kind of tiered these things. I've got 4 matches in tier 2, which I'm calling strong watch. And then football is football, tier 3, named by you. Appreciate that. I've got 2 matches there. How do you feel about how I've kind of set these up to date?
The only ones that I think I might bump up to a must watch is I think I'm with you on Louisville Houston Dash. Like I'm very interested to see what that's going to look like. Now, how well does Houston travel? What do they look like against Louisville, who looked great in their win over San Diego? And then I mean, obviously it's a must watch because I have a press credential and I must go there to watch it, to cover it. But I mean, Seattle Reign is 6th on the table. San Diego Wave is 3rd on the table. And the Reign need a win about as badly as you could need it while you're sitting at 6th on the table. And if it's a 6-point swing, if they get it done, they will tie San Diego Wave on points. They'll still, unless they beat them 5-0, they'll be behind them on goal differential.
No, 3-0, because it's +3 and -3.
Oh yeah, look at you. See, I thought I was crushing the math earlier, and then here it comes to bite me. But yeah, so I mean, although I'm not going to hold my breath that they'll beat them 3-0, but yeah, I think it's a pretty important match. And if you look at San Diego coming out of the break, they're 1 win, 2 draws, 1 loss. So it's kind of it feels like a gotta have it game for both of those clubs.
Yeah, I agree with you that I don't foresee a 3-0 Seattle win in my notes. I've got first goal wins. I don't think either of these teams have any kind of rhythm offensively to the point where they're going to feel comfortable. And I think each of these teams defensively, can make it difficult. Obviously the Wave don't let you get the ball. They connect every pass. They press. Seattle is physical, and they do a little bit of the same. And we'll see, if San Diego's got the quality all the way upfield to be able to cash in, and if Seattle, I don't know, I think Seattle, for me, the first thing I'm looking at is the lineup. Like how much firepower are they including? The last few lineups we talked about last episode have been, you just look at the lineup and be like, oof, this is going to be a lot of things need to go right for them to even get one on the board, let alone two, let alone walk away with some points. So that's going to be the first place I'm going to look. I wanted to rewind though real quick to the Louisville Houston Dash, the other matchup that we thought could be a fringe absolute must watch.
Yeah.
I'm going to be watching in this one Emma Sears versus Avery Patterson. I like that. I love that U.S. Women's National Team matchup. We didn't talk about it last episode, but I got such a kick out of Sam Coffey just terrorizing Claire Hutton, Ali Sentnor, for Casey Curran, just sending that U.S. Women's National Team alpha message, to those players, looking over at the sideline. Where's Michelle Cooper? Why is she in the game? Oh, she's in the game now. I'm going to go foul her. Like she was just like that. I just love that energy. Maybe we get a little bit of that with Emma Sears versus Avery Patterson as well. Louisville. I mentioned to you last episode, I've got them ranked 3 in my power rankings. So check this out. They're currently in 7th, 4 points behind San Diego Wave, who they just beat away handily. But the key thing that you're looking at here, so I mentioned they're in 7th. They've already played 2 games versus the Kansas City Current, 2 games versus the Washington Spirit, 2 games versus the Orlando Pride, and 2 games versus the San Diego Wave. So left on Louisville's schedule, Houston, Portland, Seattle, Utah, Angel City, the Courage, Chicago Stars, Gotham, and Bay FC. There might be 2 playoff teams amongst those 9. So if you're Louisville, I don't know, man. I think I'm feeling.
Go ahead. Do it. Go ahead and do it.
I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I've already got them ranked 3 in my power rankings. I defy anyone on the internet to have them ranked higher in their power rankings. And, I'll send you an angry post on Blue Sky. Or maybe I won't. Maybe I'll just ignore it. But either way, I'm out here. I've got Louisville at least earning themselves a home playoff match. I'll put my name on it.
All right. That's where I wanted you to go. Okay. I was going to say, if they're 3 in your power rankings, to me, the logic would dictate they're hosting a playoff game.
Yeah. I was like, what, are they lifting trophy? I'm not going to. I go through I take it all the way. I take it all the way out to the limit.
That's understandable. That's why the streets love you, man. That's what we're doing out here. Out there playing Big Ten football. They got Sarah Weber and Emma Sears from The Ohio State University leading the way. Really, Sarah Weber's not really leading the way, but she's contributing.
She's playing well. I like it.
Playing pretty well. Yeah, I got some edge to her too. But yeah, we talk about Taylor Flint every single time. She's just been an absolute beast all over the field. Bloomer in goal. Yeah, I like it. I think arrow pointing up for Racing Louisville. Let's just see. We've been warned. We've seen them kind of, have weird swoons at the wrong time in these last few years of us following the league. So let's see how it works. But I think they're built a little differently this year than the past couple of years that we've been paying attention to them.
Yeah, they're so nasty, and I love how often Bev Yanez comes up when they talk about their identity, and you could just kind of see how it's woven through. I'm not really familiar with Bev Yanez's game when she was a player, but you can just see all you need to know from how things get discussed and the little snippets that we do get into her coaching. But I continue to love this team. I'm really pumped about this team. Let's go to the matchup that features the team at the very top of the table against the team that's on the outskirts for sure of the playoff picture. Kansas City Current hosting North Carolina Courage.
I think you had this one labeled exactly right. This is a strong watch because Kansas City Current is involved. I think for anybody who pays any little bit of attention to the NFL, if Patrick Mahomes is playing, probably going to watch. If Temwa Chewinga is playing, probably going to watch. This is kind of where we are. I think Courage looks better since the departure of Sean Nahas. I think they're probably a multitude of factors to why they are looking better, but I think they might be in real trouble in this one because I mean, like, what other way do you see it going other than another Kansas City Current victory?
I think, the thing about the Neha situation, you don't really know, what the new manager bounce situation was necessarily, but
Sure.
I'm not sure how much better they look. They look different, I'll say. They're
Yeah.
playing more wide open. They're utilizing more of the skills that some of their players have, like Lucy or Jaden Shaw, or, like just kind of like opening things up and letting players, giving them a little bit more freedom. I think that's kind of paying off a little bit. They're also giving up goals the other way. I think against KC Current on the road, I think they're going to have to play somewhat of a perfect match, even just to get a result. But we talked about it on the Week 17 recap episode. If you're Vlatko, we saw him play Nichelle Prince. We've seen some lineup, sort of like we're getting to that point in the season. I think you kind of clinched the shield for them too last episode. And if that's the case, if that's kind of how they're feeling, you could see some, not necessarily take the foot off the gas, but maybe experiment with some stuff, some different player combinations. And
Sure.
I think they could still kind of cruise against the North Carolina Courage side at home, even with some of that experimentation.
Probably, and it is weird too because I like so many other defensive players. I mean, you already know what time it is with Ryan Williams and Kaylee Kurtz, but they've just been Courage has just looked so easy to beat in some of these attacking runs where you're just kind of able to run through them. So the last team in the United States of America that you would want to look easy to beat on defense against would be the Kansas City Current. So I don't have high hopes for him, but I'm going to watch because it's the Kansas City Current.
Well, we'll see. I had one more match in the strong watch category, and that is the Washington Spirit versus the Chicago Luzhmilas. Let's fucking go. I'm into this one. I think we've seen Washington. I mean, obviously Washington, they gave up 2 goals and they were dying to give up another one to BFC. And they've just been beatable. You're talking about teams that look beatable defensively. I think they're right up at the top of the list, especially for the good teams. And it's very rare that you see a player. I loved your Christian Okoye call out from last episode. It was just so good because you rarely see a player that physically has the tools where you're just like, if that player does the right thing, if they make a precise run that's perfectly timed, there's no defense. And I think we saw Luzhmila do that to North Carolina 3 different times last weekend. Yeah. And it's just such a special treat to watch a player that physically can offer something that there is no counter for. And I think there could be something in this Washington Spirit match where, we talked about Ali Schlegel ball, Luzhmila. We saw Jamise Joseph get some minutes. I think, I don't know, the Chicago side is starting to get a little bit of their mojo. And I don't know, it could be a good formula for some productivity from that side against a Spirit side that's looked a little bit gettable.
You ready for the heavyweight fight of the match?
Mm-hmm.
It will be one Luzhmila versus one Tara Micchione, assuming she's healthy after. I mean, she was kind of taking an ass kicking in that match versus Bay. I mean, she had a couple rough spots there. I was, really concerned for her in a couple different spots, but she's fucking tough, dude. I mean, she's got to be one of the absolute toughest players in the league, and I think that therefore one of the toughest players in the world. So I'll be interested to see if she gets the start. I mean, she was an Iron Woman last year. I think one of the 7 in the league last year. She never came out of the match against Bay FC either. So I'll be real interested to see what that looks like. And Esme Morgan gonna have to try to slow down Luzhmila as well. You still have Rebecca Bernal and Hal Hirschfeld kind of in those defensive midfielder positions. So Luzhmila's gonna have her work cut out for her. But, I mean, the 30-year-old Brazilian feels like she is apex of her prime-ish, right? She hits the handspring into the backflip after she scores one of those goals last week. Like, she's cooking on all cylinders. So, I don't think she's going to be afraid of a physical game. I expect Washington Spirit to play a physical game against her, though.
It's funny because she hit the back spring, the backflip hand, whatever it was.
I don't even know. I said backspring. I don't know what I'm talking about. What the fuck
backspring sounds about right. Oh, well, she hit the maneuver, and the camera was still at the zoomed out angle. Like, usually like there's like the zoom, but she did it so fast. She's like, "Oh, ball's there," and she does like her sick tumble. I mean, just what a player to be watching. On the Washington side, though, I think offensively, they've got that all-star team issue where they've got so many good players. Like this weekend was just like, all right, this was not going to be a Kawasi gift Monday. Like they just move the pieces around, and I think like I'm really interested to see if some hierarchy starts to develop offensively with them, because they've got the firepower, they've got the talent, but now the chemistry I think is still a little bit up in the air, but plenty of time to get it done. And I think a home match versus Chicago may be a good opportunity to start, cranking up some of that chemistry.
And as we gear up for our show, as we gear up for the UEFA Women's Champions League over in Europe, I often forget and lose sight of CONCACAF W Champions Cup, where Washington Spirit defeated Alianza. Where's Alianza from? El Salvador. They beat them by a humble score of 7-0, where Kawasi had a hat trick, Ricketts got one, Ratcliffe got one, Rodman got one, and Cantori got one. So I think that was partly responsible for some of the rotation in the squad. But to your point, when you got a ton of great players, you're able to do that kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, but you also want to have, every team outside of the Kansas City Current, if they want to really compete, if they're serious about competing, has to make 2 or 3 or 4 strides between now and the end of the season.
That's true.
So if you're the Spirit, you're nowhere near where you need to be. I think anybody would kind of like think that even within the organization, even you look at Geralda's moving on, and I think like the change there and like figuring out, all right, how do we establish ourselves? So we're going to have to see a little bit more, consistency in the lineup and the attack. I think like, I love your McKeown point. McKeown and Hirschfeld combined on a takeaway. I think it was Taylor Huff that they took the ball away from that ends up leading to the Corey Bethune goal. Like, I think it was one pass away. I think it was a McKeown takeaway, Hirschfeld to Bethune, and then the ball's in the back of that just that quickly. Reminded me of the tandem interview when Hal Hirschfeld told me that they won the Challenge Cup by thugging it out, and then Tara McKeown was behind. Hirschfeld was like, she's like, yeah, quote that, like, and I was just like, oh, yeah, I will. That was a great quote. I appreciate it. Thanks, Hal. Thanks, Sarah. Tara McKeown and Hal Hirschfeld continue to collab and cause trouble, within the WOSO world. So I appreciate that for sure. 2 more matches to hit though. These 2, both in the football category. Doesn't mean we're not going to watch, but suffice it to say, we're not canceling any appointments or clearing any schedules or moving anything around to make sure that we're in prime position to catch these 2 matchups. But let's start with the first one: Portland Thorns, Utah Royals. What do we need to know about this one?
I think it's bad news for Utah Royals. I mentioned it on the last episode. Portland seems like they have the ability to bounce back from a disappointing loss. They did that when they defeated Seattle Reign FC in the Cascadia rivalry. And I think, they're coming off this, the difficult loss versus Kansas City Current. I think they might take it out on a Utah Royals team that is just understandably going to be outgunned in this matchup. So I don't know what the line's looking like. I don't know what the goal line is looking like. But if there was a -1.5 available for a reasonable price, I'd absolutely take it. And I might even take a look at the -2.5.
Ah, interesting. Let me make the case the other way.
Please.
Maybe I kind of like play a little devil's advocate. Utah, to their credit, since moving on from Ali Setnor, last 4 matches, just 2 goals allowed. Like I said, I think they've been playing some spirited ball. No wins over that stretch, but they did notch 3 draws. 1 against the Orlando Pride, one against Gotham FC, 1 against Angel City. So this team not necessarily getting rolled, since Ali Setnor leaves. as mentioned, 3 points in their last 4, just 8 points on the season. So a little bit of a heater, you can call it that. But either way, I think they're going to show up and try to continue to like put good film on tape. But Portland, I think I agree with you. I think they're going to treat this as a little bit of like a sparring session. Take it out on the heavy bag a little bit. That is Utah. I think they are kind of like a notch below that top class, but I do have them in my top 6. Interesting couple stats here for Portland. 4th most goals scored this season for Portland, and 4th fewest goals allowed this season for Portland. So on those 2 metrics, this is a top 4 team. The one thing that I think is a problem is, we mentioned this at the beginning of the season. No Sophia Wilson. That was going to be an issue. No Christine Sinclair. That was going to be an issue. The goals are going to have to come from somewhere. I think they got, a nice boost from Raylan Turner, a nice boost from Pietra Torden. But these 4 players, I'm going to read you the number of shots they've attempted, the number of goals they've scored. Okay? Sure. Hina Sugita, 28 shots, 0 goals. Dana Castellanos, 28 shots, 1 goal. Mimi Alidu, who looks shredded, by the way. Shout out to Strength and Conditioning in Portland. I could barely recognize Mimi. They're just fucking out here doing it. 10 shots, 1 goal. Olivia Moultrie, 38 shots, 3 goals. You look at those 4 players, Sugita, Moultrie, Alidu, Castellanos. That's 104 shots this season, 5 goals across those 4 players. I think if Portland's going to be really serious about contending with some of the big dogs, it can't be 5 out of 104. It's got to be 10, 13, 14, 15. They've got to do a little bit better than that. They need these players to kind of stretch outside of what's normal for them to make up for, sort of like the lack of firepower up front.
It'll be interesting to see if there is like a, whatever you want to call it, maybe not a regression to the mean, but an advancement toward the mean, I guess. I mean, Sugita, like from my recollection of the match against Seattle Reign, she had something that looked like a sitter, and Claudia Dickey kind of like swallowed it up and like got it like right in her stomach. But I mean, it was a great effort by Dickey. But if you're Sugita and you're of her, especially of her quality, you feel like you gotta score that like from point blank range. So I'll be interested to see if they're able to kind of, get it going, and maybe they stop, hitting the rim and start going in like in basketball. But it's a great point by you. Like if you're taking shots from inopportune areas in other situations, and you're just hitting those shots that we talked about, like at the top of the show, where it's like, I'm getting a shot, but there's no real danger whatsoever of the keeper letting it in, then really it's just a shot for the sake of a shot, and you're not going to win matches that way.
Yeah, no doubt. I think we'll see if Portland's able to kind of like generate. I mean, they don't need much. They're in all these matches. They're not really getting blown. I don't think they've lost. I think they've got 2 losses by 2 goals. Their other 3 losses, I believe, are by 1 goal. So they're in every single one of these matches. They don't need a lot, but they need more than what they're getting for sure. And again, that's just against the upper echelon of the league. So Utah, probably a good opportunity to kind of like get back on track here. 1 more match to hit. Football's football. What are you going to say? The battle of the big California metropolises, Angel City FC versus Bay FC. I think it's safe to say these two teams are probably non-playoff teams. Maybe arrows pointing, I think, slightly up for Angel City, and maybe at best, spinning in a circle for Bay FC. How are you thinking about these 2 teams?
I want to see what Angel City looks like the rest of the year. I mean, they're 1 point behind Gotham. Now, obviously, they're 9 behind them in the goal differential. But, here's my principle again. I like their roster. They have good, talented players. Yeah, I think it's going to take a little bit for them to kind of get everything up and running. It's a quality win over our Orlando Pride, as heartbreaking as it was. Alexander Strauss needs to implement his system and kind of figure out these players. One thing that I think we did miss discussing, so we're going to be way late on this discussing it, but did you see after Angel City drew Utah Royals 2 weeks ago, They end in a 0-0 draw. Not an enjoyable football game to watch. This is truly a football match. But one of the reasons why I was glad I watched it is as the post game is going on and the broadcast is waiting for a player to come over to interview, Alexander Strauss was laying into that squad about drawing Utah in Utah. And I think it was, I'm not a lip reader, but I'm going to go out on a limb and say that he was telling him that effort was unacceptable if you want to be a successful team in the league. And I liked it. And it seemed like the players were locked in and kind of nodding along and were like, yeah, we're better. Like that doesn't meet our standard. And I kind of, that kind of made me raise a little bit of an eyebrow. I'm like, okay, let's see what happens as the team goes on. And now they come back and they get a 1-0 win versus Orlando.
Yeah, I mean the results kind of speaks for itself in that instance. I think we'll see what they're able to do down the stretch. They're going to be. I mean, I think the one spot that's available is the Gotham spot. I think Seattle, sure. they're fully wobbling for sure, but I think they'll be able to get it back on track only because they've got offensive talent that's for whatever reason been sidelined last few matchups. But I think that Gotham spot's gettable for Angel City. I think if I'm making a pick, it's funny, man, because Houston is like they're 2 points behind. I'm sorry, they're 1 point behind Angel City, which is like, I'm still in the mindset of like, all right, it's Houston, Chicago, and Utah at the bottom. And I think I've had the last week or so, I've had to like really change my tune there. But I don't know that, let's see, from Gotham, North Carolina, Angel City, Houston, I think from that mix, I think I would pick Houston to grab that 8th spot. So that makes this matchup at home for Angel City versus Bay a massive matchup. You need the 3 here. And if you're Bay FC, my home squad that I'm covering a bit out here, it's tough. I mean, I like the players. I like Montoya. I like the organization. I like what they're doing. The one thing that gives me pause is nothing seems to be changing. It seems to look a lot like it did last week. And I think the last couple times I've gotten the chance to talk to some of the players, Silkowitz, Montoya, my big question is like, what's new this week? What did you change? Like, how are you approaching this week differently than last week? Because we're at like 3-4 weeks in a row where it's like nothing's happening. I think this team's lost 3 of 5. They haven't won in a while. I think we're going to have to see. I mean, I'm not in the owner. I'm not in any kind of decision making position, but I have to imagine the folks that are going to want to see something a little different than we've seen the last 5-6 matches here from Bay.
Yeah, I mean, probably. I mean, like coming out of the break, they're 2 draws, 2 losses, 0 wins. So you gotta get points to stay in the playoff hunt. So I talked about the Bethune goal. In our last episode, we were kind of recapping the last week. She just has way too much space. There was a second opportunity where she just had way too much space. Sometimes I think the defense in general just looks really stretched, even in moments where the ball is coming down the central channel and the defense still kind of looks stretched. I'm not sure exactly like what's happening there. I know when we spoke to our pals from Expected Own Goals podcast, they talked about how last year when Bay kind of started to make that run to grab the final playoff spot at the end of the season, they played a more defensive, packed-in style and then built out the attack from there. And they've since gone away from it. And it would appear that the results are looking more similar to the early season results last year, where they were giving up way too many goals and not getting enough opportunities up front.
Yeah, no doubt. I think you got to look at Abby Dalcomper, who was the big acquisition last year, whose acquisition kind of aligned with like your offense to defense mentality switch. And then obviously Emily Manga is not involved this year either. That makes it tricky. Yeah, it's just a lot of flux, and I can't. Honestly, I can't really pick on the players. I mean, I think all those defenders, Hubley, she gets to go last matchup, and I think defensively she's been. I like how Hubley plays. Didasco, I think, has been more up and down this season. Obviously, like a little bit more advanced age, but defensively, this team doesn't really have like they don't look organized. They don't look like they're a step ahead. They don't look like they have a strategy. They look like they're constantly chasing. They're constantly just, running from spot to spot, a little bit slow, a little bit behind, not really kind of anticipating, or, they don't really have a defensive identity, honestly. They're just out there kind of playing defense and looking to, got to get the ball and go the other way. Yeah. That's something that definitely is going to have to change for sure. I think this season a little bit, we're getting really close to the wave the white flag portion of the year, but I think going forward they're gonna have to figure out how to change it up, because the way they're defending is just not. They look like sometimes they look like the worst defense in the league, and that's a tough spot to be in, considering all the firepower, top to bottom.
Yeah, I think it's one of those situations where it's like, maybe it takes 2 transfer windows to be like, not to be too pessimistic, but like if you got that many spots to fill, I know in this league we've seen, obviously you have the Benda acquisition last year for Orlando, a team that has historically been in the cellar, no matter who they had on that team surrounding Marta. And then you get Benda and, things turn around. But yeah, I think as the league grows more competitive and the rosters are getting more and more stacked, as we've talked about many times, I think it's either going to take a couple awesome moves in one window or maybe 2 windows for Bay to kind of get it turned around.
Yep, I think that's right. One thing we do know, get that goalkeeper position locked down. Let's fucking go. All right.
Damn right.
Episode calendar. We will be back with NWSL Week 18 recaps. We'll also be back with some Champions League action. TBD. We'll figure out what's happening when with regard to that. Obviously I've still got the newborn haze, floating through my vein, trying to figure out how to unfog that part of my mind. But either way, we'll be back very, very soon. Talk a little NWSL Week 18 as mentioned. And even though Champions League is early, I don't know, but there's a couple matches I think your boys will have their eyes on, and we might have some thoughts and takes on that. So definitely keep it locked. All right, man. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
No, I think that's it. I mean, do I fully know how the Champions League works this year? Don't ask me questions like that. It's none of your business. We'll just do the show. You worry about that. So, like, I have a rough idea of how this is going to work? I think I do.
Hey, I'm going to try to. I'm going to give you the benefit of the doubt and say you're not being passive aggressive with me for not doing a Machinations episode, which obviously it's August. We're overdue for my UEFA Women's Champions League Machinations episode. So I take your point. I take your feedback. That's okay. We'll get to it ideally before we really get cooking here.
There was literally no feedback in that. I'm like very hazy on it. I don't expect you to educate me, buddy. I'm own 50% of this too, man. I gotta figure it out, but we'll figure it out as we go along. Look, Manchester United versus PSV. Very interested to see what that's going to look like. Obviously, the Brown Battalion in full force taking on Inter Milan. Our pals at Slavia Prague? They're playing Fomget Genschlik Vespor from some league. I don't know what league they're playing in. So we'll kind of see how that goes. Like, this is the joy of the UEFA Women's Champions League. Hammarby is playing Medalist 1925 Kharkiv. I mean, come on, man. Medalist? Like, let's go. Like, they better come out to, Du Hast by Rammstein or something like that. Like, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure. Am I painting with a broad brush? Am I going to sound culturally ignorant for not knowing where they are? They're in the Ukrainian Premier League. So let's go. Shout to them. We'll see how that one goes. So, oh man, and their logo kind of looks like the Michigan Wolverines. All right, we're falling down the rabbit hole here. Sorry, I'm already getting excited for Champions League.
Yeah, Ukraine, Big Ten country. Who knew? All right, man. This has been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, hanging out. If you enjoyed the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, make sure you kick it with us each and every single week. Like, subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen. Leave us a review over your favorite podcast app. Links to all of our socials except one in the show notes of this episode. And a big thank you to my host as well, Mr. Grant Engle, for putting up with the crying baby in the background. I appreciate you, bro.
It's a beautiful sound, my good man. I'm happy for you. I'm also happy that everybody continues to rock with us. Thank you for always dropping knowledge in the comments, and we will see you all next time.
Jackie Ovalle. Jackie Ovalle.
Let's go. Champ is here.